Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Repa Radio and Africa Independent Television AIT. My name is Amechi Anapwe. The signing of a peace accord by political parties and their presidential candidates on Tuesday, August 18, presents an opportunity for a peaceful and violence-free 2027 general election. The essence of the peace accord is, however, fast losing value as the actions of the political parties and their members in previous elections where similar peace accord were also signed negates the very essence of that peace accord. Citizens are beginning to question the relevance of the peace accord, especially as violators go scot-free. We will continue to examine the relevance of the peace accord and what could be done to force politicians to abide by its dictates. We'll be joined by Dr. Kabir Adamu, a technical member of the National Peace Committee, and he will provide perspectives. Before then, we will examine reports that President Bola Tinubu has directed the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, other anti-corruption agencies to channel all seized funds, unclaimed dividends, and the trust funds to the Nigerian Education Fund, NEL Fund. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, disclosed this while briefing State House correspondents at the end of the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The measure is intended to ensure that NEL Fund remains financially buoyant to meet growing obligations. We will offer perspectives on that. We will also take you to Osun State, where the winner of last Saturday's governorship election, Ademola Adeleke, was issued with a certificate of return. And violence has not ended in that state as gunshots were fired when the governor's entourage went to present the certificate of return to a traditional ruler in Osogbo. We will bring you up to speed with developments there. My colleagues, as usual, are with me in the studio here, Ujo Ejeye and Mustafa Mohammed. Welcome to the program.
Good morning and welcome to our listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Good morning.
I will start with this report from Osun State about the collection, the issuance and collection of certificate of return by the winner of last Saturday's governorship election, Senator Ademola Adeleke.
This presentation of the certificate of return to Governor Ademola Adeleke and his deputy marks the formal completion of the electoral process for the conduct of the governorship election in Osun State, making the way for the duo to continue in office for another 4-year term. The INEC National Commissioner supervising the governorship election in the state, Professor Kunle Ajayi, and the Osun State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Oluwatoyin Babalala, presented the certificate of return to Governor Ademola Adeleke and his deputy in a brief ceremony. They explained that the Commission had fulfilled its statutory responsibility after affirming the choice of voters after the election.
Our mandate was simple: to conduct an election that is free, fair, credible, transparent, impartial, inclusive, and progressive, and to ensure that the lawful choice of the electorate prevails.
The successful conduct of the election was not achieved by INEC alone. It was a collective democratic enterprise requiring the commitment, cooperation, vigilance, and restraint of political parties, candidates, security agencies, civil society organizations, the media, traditional leaders, and religious institutions, and above all, the electorate in Osun State.
In his acceptance speech, Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke thanked INEC, security agencies, and the people of Osun State for their roles in the conduct of what he described as a peaceful and credible election.
I really appreciate you, Mr. President, for making democracy to stay in Nigeria. That's all what we want. And I wish you all the best in that 2027 election. I'm seeing the opportunity that all my other contestants, they should please come over. Let's join hands together and let's move Osun State forward.
The Governor Ademola Adeleke, the accord candidate, was declared winner of the August 15 governorship election on Sunday after securing highest number of votes in a keenly contested poll.
So elections conducted, winner emerged, certificate of return issued. Everybody will now await formal inauguration for a second term for Governor Ademola Adeleke. In the meantime, it appears the APC's candidate in that election may not challenge the outcome. In a statement he issued on Wednesday, he made reference to the fact that he will go and abide with the decision of INEC as far as that election is concerned. So no further hurdles for Governor Adeleke.
Yes,
I think.
okay, Mustafa.
I think they just realize that in every contest there will be just one winner in contests such as governorship or presidency, National Assembly, anywhere. And what disturbs me about this election and post-election is still some people fail to learn their lesson by shooting firearms when the governor has gone to present his certificate to a traditional ruler. I think it's high time we realize that what former President Goodluck Jonathan taught us is the naked truth that no election is worth the blood of any citizen. Now that he has won the governorship, he's told everybody that he is a governor for everyone, not just for those who elected him. Those who are preaching peace should continue doing that. Senator Fada Hunsi should quickly be made to face the consequences of his action. I also commend the nephew of the governor, the famous musician Davido, who had preached peace all through. And this is not the last election. The presidential and National Assembly election are just by the corner. If we don't have peace, if we don't continue to have peace, how many other people are going to die before the general election in 2027 will be completed? It's sad. We need to really sit up.
I think that apart from just realizing that there has to be a winner and a loser, I think it's majorly because the election was so free and fair. I mean, it was really clear that the person who emerged the winner is actually the winner. I mean, even if he wants to go to court, I doubt that he would have a whole lot to hold on to, because I think INEC was at its best. The security agencies were at one of their best, and it would be really difficult to dispute such a victory that was so clear, the way the victory was won. And that is why we're saying let elections be free and fair and credible. That way litigations will be reduced. I mean, anybody who really watched would know that the Osun people were behind Adeleke, and they made sure that he won. I saw one visual of where a polling officer was taking the ballots to collation center, and the Okada riders in that area followed him. When he was receiving a phone call, they said, no, drop the phone call. Nobody, no phone call until you deliver this thing to the... so that was how determined the Osun people were. And if the people are actually determined and told you cleanly that, look, your guy, you're not the person we want. And of course, the issue with the civil servants too, I think he read, and I'm sure some other persons, if you remember, the APC chieftain that was with us, advised him not to go to court because it would just be like just wasting time and
Anesthetizing.
yes. And as for the one of the violence, it's so disappointing that at this point, at this stage of the contest, the victory, some persons are still not satisfied and are determined to waste their bullets and their guns. If they didn't succeed before the election, they can't succeed now. Now, we advise such persons to sheath their sword. Whoever is pushing them, if it is the senator, Father Onsis, or whoever, they should stop it. They should just stop it and realize that politicians will just use them and dump them. How many of their children are here in Nigeria to match with those people on the streets and to go and execute those kind of hatchet jobs. Their children are busy pursuing a positive life outside the shores of this country, and you are busy carrying guns looking for who to shoot. I think they should talk to themselves, and the law enforcement agencies should do the needful. Let Senator Fada-Osi and anybody who incited violence during that election be dealt with according to the law. That would send a strong message to troublemakers, and not just in Osun State, in any other place across the country.
I love what Madam Uju just said about those who are protesting or carrying out thuggery. Their family members are not here. Let me tell you something that will pain everyone. The reason why, if they have a headache or catarrh, they will fly to Europe, America, Asia to go to the hospital, is because it's the same elites who got medical care free those years, destroyed the same hospital that took care of them. A lot of them went to schools on public scholarship. They had uniforms, good meals, very free. Ice cream and chocolate.
Three-course meal.
Yes, even their laundries were done at the universities. They just need to drop them in front of the hostel. But when they became the leaders of this nation, they destroyed the same thing. Now they are calling for people to die when their own families are not here. I think Nigerians need to wake up so that people should not misguide them, no matter how.
Okay, I think we'll have to get back to this issue, because even in our main session, one of our listeners was making reference to whenever the opposition wins an election in Nigeria, then it is free and fair. But when the ruling party wins, then everybody has got an issue to do with it, especially as after this election, the security agencies and INEC that performed creditably well appear not to be getting the thumbs ups that they're supposed to get. We'll get back to interrogate it. We just want to have our guest for today, Dr. Kabir Adamu. We needed to take him early because he has some other engagements at this time. Kabir Adamu, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Dr. Amici. Good morning.
Okay, good morning to you. We'll get back to the issue of the National Peace Accord. Of course, the candidates signed, the presidential candidates, some of them sent representatives. The national chairman of all the political parties also signed. But the concern out there is that that peace accord is perhaps losing its appeal. As a member of the technical committee of the National Peace Committee, how will you respond immediately to this concern?
For something that has been ongoing for almost about a decade now, and that has succeeded in signing over 20 peace accords, and that has also supported peace mediation, has also facilitated peaceful elections over this period, I think it deserves commendation, especially if we remember that this is a driven committee. It's not that anybody is paying the members. It's not as if there is any sort of financial benefit associated with its activities. And if you also remember that there is no other body that plays that role, 17 persons, all of them eminent personalities who are quote unquote non-partisan and who have come together to give back to their nation after having served in different capacities. Again, it is their resources they are expending. It is their time, their commitment. And sometimes what we need to ask ourselves is, if they are not doing this, if there was no alternative, where would we have been? So I think the committee deserves commendation. I agree that the...
Dr. Damo, the whole essence of the peace accord is to get the key players, the contestants, to commit to...
component has been deficient. There's an attempt to introduce a component. Please, go ahead.
So the essence of the peace accord is to get the contestants, the parties, to commit to a peaceful process. But in the last 10 years, in the last decade, we have seen progressively things deteriorating towards the pole with violence, getting more and more. And it would appear that the people have turned it into a ceremony to the point that they sign the peace accord, but they do not honor the intent of the peace accord. And so we keep having more violence during elections. How does this affect you as a person who has been going about preaching peace during the electoral process?
Yes, I mean, it's quite unfortunate that as a country, we have to, in a quote unquote, compel our politicians to do the right thing. The accord, the contents of the accord are drawn from the Electoral Act and the Constitution. So it's not as if we went outside our laws to introduce any commitment. We just sort of pulled from these two documents, the Electoral Act and the Constitution. So ordinarily, the peace accord wouldn't even have been necessary if our politicians were playing by the book. So it's really unfortunate, and it saddens me that we have to even do this.
Maybe I will,
like you rightly said,
maybe I will take you on this. A lot of Nigerians, feel it's a VIP ceremonial occasion every time these peace accords are signed. And like you said, you've done it over 20 times. Now, I personally feel there's no relationship with those managing the peace accord and the principal actors with the grassroots where the violence usually takes place. How do you think your committee can improve its services working with the politicians to get to the grassroots so that these daggers, machetes, will not rear up during the future general election?
Brilliant question, Mustafa. And first off, I think comply responsibilities.
It appears some form of freeze there, but we hope the network will get better and we'll have Dr. Kabir Adamu back. Of course, raised one important issue, 20 different peace accords signed. That's a record. Do we have him back now? No.
Do you hear me?
Yes, but you're still freezing, Dr. Kabir Adamu. I can hear you, but not as much. We'll get you back into the virtual connection and, of course, give you the opportunity to make some much needed clarifications, one of which he had already made is that no financial benefits. All the eminent persons involved are doing it out of their own volition and out of love for fatherland, as it were. Again, that they didn't bring in anything new into the peace accord. They just imported things that are already listed on our electoral act and our constitution and our Einstein laws, things that our politicians have simply refused to abide with. So this accord is just like a reminder going out of their way to remind you of what are things that are contained in your laws and which you have been violating and have not been faithful to. When we get him back, we hope to
You know, Dr. Amechi, if you see commendably the Nigerian customs, the Nigerian police, army, as well as other fifth agencies have impounded, both at ports and highways, several firearms. And this kind of firearms, if you look at the proliferation of arms in the country, it doesn't augur well for our security and even our election. But let's go back to
yes, so we'll have Dr. Kabir back now. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
The commitment to comply with the accord by political parties, the flag bearers. Yes, to the kind of acts that we see it to violence, which is why, as part of our sort of plea here, and we.
Here he goes again. But we hope to.
We hope,
get him back.
like I was saying, you see, with several treaties against proliferation of arms, small arms, foreigners importing arms, citizens importing arms, the Nigerian customs had mentioned names of 3 people whose consignment they shipped into Nigeria were arrested, including the agent. I think Nigerian citizens need to sit up. Nobody deserves to die because of elections or finances. If you are killing somebody's relations because you have different political ideologies, then you can also fall a victim. It's actually very, very unfortunate. That's why a lot of calls to have peaceful election, from Osun election that just took place to the 2027 general election.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll try to deal with the problem of stopping a real connection, voice and video between the studio here and Kabir Adamu. Do stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the event.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We have at least via voice connection with Dr. Kabir Adamu. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you so much for remaining with us. I'll just allow you to land on your thoughts and your points before we come up with further questions.
Thank you. So I was making the point that the commitment, or the accord, is being signed by the political parties as their chairman, and then the flag bearers of each of the political parties. So that's the first level of expectation, that compliance will come from these 2 levels. But we know that they use other individuals within the electoral ecospace. And so as part of our expectation, we've listed campaign teams and supporters. We're asking them to be responsible in mobilization and to not to engage in any acts of violence or intimidation. Then for party and candidate spokespersons, who are usually, members of the media or persons with expertise in PR and things like that, we're asking them to embrace responsible messaging, to verify their information and to avoid inflammatory or inciting statements. Then, of course, for members of the fourth estate of the realm, we are saying verify information before amplifying it, conduct evidence-based advocacy. And then for security agencies, we're saying neutrality, restraint, and equal protection to everyone. And then for traditional and religious leaders, we're saying promote peace and discourage inflammatory rhetoric. And then for electoral institutions, it's simple: impartiality, transparency, and consistent enforcement. And then for all Nigerians, we're saying shun violence, inducement, and inflammatory
So it goes
rhetoric.
beyond the
Yeah.
politicians, the candidates, and the political parties. There's also some code for the media, the electorate, and everybody.
Exactly. And I wanted to make the point that how we've been able to do is to come up with what is called the Election Security Information Hub. It is going to be monitoring, it's going to verify, it's going to document, and it's going to escalate any infraction.
Beautiful.
So unlike in the past where we didn't have this, now there is this ESI hub. So that means, for instance, if there is any violation, we can document it and then pass it on to the relevant agencies. And that means the security, especially the police, and then, of course, in certain instances, INEC. That
So
has the
who
responsibility
manages
to
this
penalize
hub?
or take actions against the perpetrator.
Manages this hub?
The Kuka Center, which is the secretariat of the National Peace Committee.
Okay,
and
so
I invite you, honestly, to take a visit and see how comprehensive and the level of technology that is being deployed to support this process.
I would love to ask this question. Is it the concept of winner takes all that breeds this conflict most times, or development that are not inclusive? Because in other democracies, after election, works and developmental projects go on. But here you hear hate speeches, hatred, and insults. It even becomes worse with the social media now. What do you think the politicians can do, especially those who win the election, to make sure that everybody is included in their development plans?
I would just say one word: inclusivity. If you want to address the divisions and Mustafa, the negative mobilization that we're trying to address is unfortunately a reality of our modern day politics. So that means the winner will have to deal with the consequences of that modern day, negative mobilization. And one of the best ways to reduce the consequences is to do an inclusive government. In other words, bring in all members. And in this instance, demographies, women, youths, of course, where possible, bring in other members of the other political parties that, yes, they run against you, but some of them would have contributions to make for national development. So I'm hoping that as we progress, these are some things that we'll consider. It would help reduce the type of negative energy that we see after elections.
I'm really excited that the National Peace Committee is upping the ante, as it were, taking it to the next level, documenting and sharing evidences of those that violate this accord, as it were. At least for us in the media, we can name and shame those people, those names or institutions you come up with. And it will further put other institutions, those that have prosecutorial powers, to also take action. Once you document these things and do a watertight job and put them together, there will be more pressure on them to act by way of further investigation and prosecution.
Definitely, which is what we hope to achieve. The accord has been signed, but we are all in agreement that the accord is just a paper. What matters is compliance to the accord, and that is where all of us will have to play a role. The ESI, the Electoral Security Hub, will play that role, but every Nigerian must contribute to it. You saw how a significant number of people rose up against the unfortunate statement by the cleric in Jos and by the senator in Osun State. So that is the type of, I think, messaging that if all of us as Nigerians criticize and negate such activities, I think it would reach them at a point that, look, time has changed. That type of negative mobilization will no longer work in the country.
Are you concerned within the National Peace Committee of the fact that key presidential candidates are not showing up without any cogent reason for this signing ceremony? Some citizens believe they don't rate the peace accord signing, as it were. Do you share that concern?
Well, to my knowledge, almost all of them that did not show up provided reasons for not showing up. I think we've got almost 100% commitment from almost all the players, the major players within the eco space. The little areas that are, remaining, we've agreed among ourselves that diplomatic approaches will have to be done. And thank God this is the first accord. There would still be another one. So between then and now, this is for the campaigns. And then, of course, before the elections, there will be another one, just to make sure that the outcomes of the elections are respected. So hopefully by then, this diplomatic engagement that we do would have gained traction that will allow 100% engagement and involvement by all the players within the sector.
Dr. Adamu, these contestants that did not attend, I know that they may have sent word or not, but don't you think that it portrays them as probably, trivializing the process, the peace accord, considering the import of this accord? Shouldn't they, by all means, have been there and, lend importance to the process?
No, definitely. And like I said, I think almost all of them, in one way or the other, give reasons why they could not physically attend, but have sort of committed to the process. And I remember in previous attempts, we did physically take the accord to them to sign. Remember, this is a ceremony. It does not mean, for instance, just because they are physical presence at the ceremony, it does not mean that
but
they
the
will not
symbolism is as much important as the accord itself, because it sends that strong message to supporters down the line.
And Dr. Amechi, from a visibility point of view, you saw how the accord signing ceremony gained national discourse. So a politician who decides to ignore that, I think is doing it at his or her own detriment. It shows clearly to Nigerians that he or she is not going with the momentum. And I know most of them understand that. And so, again, this is the first stage. We will engage with them. They would sign, hopefully, and by the time we reach the next stage, I'm almost certain all of them will be there. If they don't, honestly, it's at their detriment.
And in second one, perhaps the second and last, just how close will it be before the election? I mean, when it will be signed? Any date yet?
Traditionally, just before no. A date has not fixed yet to go with the electoral cycle. If you did there were elections, fact, bill of the end of.
Okay, it appears the connection not quite good again. But we'll have to thank you so much, Dr. Kabir Adamu, a member of the Technical Committee for the National Peace Accord, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. And I don't know where the technical challenge came from, but I did everything possible in my powers to make sure we have a smooth conversation. Thank you.
And it was smooth indeed, at least. Your voice was crystal clear and the message well understood. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll get back to the issue of the Osun election. That adage, that quote in principle, once the opposition wins, everything was good. But if the ruling party wins, huge allegations start flying around. And I said, for this Osun election, all the stakeholders appear to have played their role very well. INEC, no issues, except for a brief period, we didn't see that upload of result was paused.
Okay, for
The
about
security
4 hours,
agencies,
but they
we
continued.
didn't see much, and everything. Is it simply because the underdog?
You know,
No.
all eyes were on the state, and expectedly, they happened to understand the reaction if they fail. So, despite the various doubts on the INEC chairman, the process was fairly okay. This is also to commend the Inspector General of Police and those he deployed, because Nigerians had a lot of doubts with what the Commissioner of Police, who was asked to come to the headquarters with his subordinates, were doing before the election. And then, there were fears that...
I hope they deploy him to undergo some courses at the police training schools.
Yes,
And
yes.
they want
I think
local
they should
How
area.
to be neutral and be
Yeah,
seen
he can
to
go
be
to
neutral during election
he can
conduct.
go to staff and training college in just other place. But you see, we are also glad that on that election day, we haven't had the stories of lives, lost, because there was fear. When before the election, about 33 people would die, unfortunately, then that was showing a very wrong signal that the election might not be well, but thank God it was well. Then the peaceful atmosphere in which the election took place should actually be a model in other states in Nigeria. Those political talks and cult members
That's
that were
peaceful atmosphere on the election day.
Of course.
Not pre-election. That pre-election
Yes.
atmosphere is never and can never be a model.
Those talks and cult members that are being used by politicians who cannot use their own children in this same manner did not or do not fall from heaven. They live along us. These are our youth that we need to transform in skill acquisition, going to schools and other activities. Unfortunately, most politicians and money bags will send their kids outside the country. Okay. And then they use the kids of other people in this toggery. Like somebody told us last week that some of them had the wrath of God because there are kids who go out to the detriment of the other kids they abandon. They don't do well there too.
Okay.
All right, sir. The question is, why is it that when opposition wins, the election is free and fair, but when is the ruling party? But you see, I think these kind of sentiments fly because of the violence and malfeasance, the malpractice associated with our elections in this country. The electoral process before now or before the Osun election always had these fraudulent actions, malpractice. You see electoral officials, even the security agents, being involved in such practices. But again, the solution is for the election to be credible, free, and fair. That way, it will not give room for such sentiments. Of course, no loser really wants to accept that he has lost, and especially if it is under questionable circumstances, like we have had repeatedly when you talk about glitches, beavers not working, election results not announced at the right time, or under questionable circumstances. So people are want to believe such things. People are want to question the victory that arises from such processes. But again, when it is credible, free, and fair, and you can see it convincingly that it is so, then, of course, you will not be able to have much to say, even if you say people will dismiss it. Like some people try to raise some small dust about the Osun election, and it's like, look, people just told them, look, leave this thing alone. That thing, Osun election was, visibly free, and to that extent, you can say it was credible. So it's because we've not been getting it right. When you do things the right way, people will not be able to misconstrue what you have done because it will be clear for the world to see.
Central to all this is the position of a sitting president. Central to all this also is the body language of a sitting president.
Yeah.
Sitting president. Now, the last three governorship elections that were conducted off cycle, the opposition parties won 2 of them. The ruling party won 1 in Ekiti State. In Anambra State, Governor Soludo won. But before the election, he clearly and publicly endorsed President Tinubu. Before Ademola Adeleke won, he clearly and publicly endorsed him, the president.
Are you
Now,
bringing up a new formula?
I'm bringing up perspectives, food for thought. If they hadn't endorsed him, would the outcome have been the way it went? Now, it's not just with this president. Every opposition member that wins the election, governorship off-cycle election, will always thank the sitting president for non-interference. Yes, recall even during Goodluck Jonathan, Adams Oshiomhole had to pay Goodluck Jonathan a thank you visit at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa Abuja for not interfering. And to me, that is the warning signal that if a president chooses not to interfere, then we'll have a free election. But if he does the other way, then anything can happen. And the city minister told us, reinforced this in Abuja recently. And it's not just with the outcome of the election, with the conduct of the election, it's also with the judiciary. We have seen in the past, not with this president, not restricted to this president, whenever the opposition wins election petition up to the Supreme Court, they will always thank the president. Now, what you
That's
can
because
deduce
of the enormous powers of the president.
What you can deduce in all this is that if a sitting president wants an election to go a certain way during the conduct of the election, or even after the election, the judiciary interpretation of it, if he wants it to go a certain way, then it will go that certain way. It is dangerous for our society and for our democracy.
Yes, I agree with you, Amici. Again, that happens because of the enormous powers of the president, and for the fact that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. He is the one that nominates the heads of the institutions that are involved in litigations or even in the conduct of elections. So the president can, to a reasonable extent or a large extent, influence how everything goes, either through his body language.
It a democracy?
No, it's not right. No, I am saying that it is because of the enormous powers the president can wield in such a situation. And that is why some people have come up to say, look, let him not choose the CJN, let him not appoint INEC chairman, let another institution, let him not, nominate, let other institutions handle it so that these people are independent enough to act in accordance with the aspirations of Nigerians and in the interest of the country. But whereby they have to be obligated to somebody because of the person who nominated them, of course, in some cases, it takes a very strong-willed person to be able to say, no, I will do the right thing under such circumstances.
Voting the president or voting people into power in Nigeria is not difficult. It's not like you need to form a curia committee like in the Catholic Church, or you need a conclave to support, to select a pope. It's very difficult. Very difficult. Those processes are making. Nigerian democracy is more beautiful than even that of the United States, which has lasted over 250 years. The reason is that even in the US, even when the citizens have a popular vote that either this Democrat or Republican is elected, the Electoral College can actually do away with the will of the people. And you call that a democracy? It still baffles my mind.
But the rules are clear.
Exactly. But in Nigeria,
and they follow the rules.
Yes, so the issue of electoral college, there's no room for manipulation. If you win this state, you know the number of electoral college votes you're winning.
But then you are talking about kicking away the popular vote. Look at what happened, the game of numbers between Awolowo and Shagari
in 1979.
In 1979, the interpretation at the courts and what have you. But I still believe no matter what the challenge, the Nigerian people can make it right. If you have a president who wants to interfere and he discovers that his interference can cause serious national security issues, he will sit back. Look at Goodluck Jonathan. I'm happy he's still alive. he still has credibility, he has respect all over the world by accepting defeat as a sitting president. Another person wouldn't have done that. We have seen in other countries where sitting presidents did not want to lose elections. Several of them have been changing constitutions, people like Paul Biya. So I believe Nigeria is still a good country and we can develop our democracy into
Yes,
a
but
very
we have a lot of work to do. Based on this point you raise, the strength of a sitting president in Nigeria
the powers.
can do and undo. You know, in Osun State, Senator Adeleke was smart. If he had moved into ADC, it would have been the end for him. That full federal might would have worked differently. But he knew that he needed to go to a lesser party and not join a party that could pose a threat to the president in 2027. And not just within election, not just within judiciary, even in the private sector. Any organization in Nigeria over these years cannot risk taking a position against the president publicly. Somehow, they find a way of not standing against the president. If they are not so openly supporting the sitting president, they will want to make sure that they are not seen to be enemies of the president. Because once you do that, and I believe that's the hard work we need to do with our democracy, in such a way that the position of one man cannot determine the outcome of our democratic process. It's an evolving situation. We must continue to evolve, and we must put in the hard work. In my book, even with regulatory agencies, I explain how a president can do and undo. That's why the president can unilaterally approve the award of a contract, the East-West, the Kosuru, because he has the powers overriding Public Procurement Act and all that. So we need to do a lot of work in limiting the powers of our president so that people will refer to him again as the most powerful president.
I think that there are some things that also went into the result of the Osun election. Now, if you look at it from the Yoruba context, Governor Adeleke is what the Yoruba will call Omoluabi. Omoluabi means a well-behaved son who gives respect to whom respect is due. And he did that, you know, not just by endorsement, and then he comes from a family too that cannot be readily ignored. Let's not forget these factors. They also played a role. Recall also that the Oni, before the election, went to visit President Bola Tinubu. I believe that as a father who knew the tension that had started escalating in Osun State at that time, that visit also helped the outcome of the election. So there were a lot of other factors, but maybe not majorly, but they also influenced the result. And then I wanted to say the America that you're talking about, yes, the institutions would not allow certain things, the system would not allow. But recall the election of President Bush in Florida, where he was a former governor, that they
had to count
and suddenly they became too tired to count. They became too tired to count.
But quickly, under this presidential system, it will be very difficult to limit the powers of the president. You can see what Donald Trump and even former President George Bush.
We see how the institutions are limiting the powers. We must allow the institutions to work.
But if you really want to do that, maybe we go back to parliamentary system where the president becomes only ceremonial, and then the fireworks will be at the parliament where the prime minister can be challenged.
Should we? Because as much as the president is seen to be powerful, there have been persons in history who have stood against sitting president, dead them, and won. And one man who has succeeded in doing that is President Bola Tinubu, as governor of Lagos State. He opposed President President Olusegun Obasanjo, a former military president with a military background. He opposed him, he criticized him, he used every means necessary and battled him to a standstill unsuccessfully. So if he can do that, why are people not doing it? Are they so weak and so cowardly that everybody want to ballet for our president, as we say? Oh, you dare not raise an issue against the president when we have it in history that someone has done it successfully? Is it the strength and character of the type of politicians we have today? Well, these are food for thought.
I think that things are not the same, because Obasanjo, though with military background and whatever, did not flout laws and
He
a whole
did.
lot of things.
He
did.
removed sitting
you
governors.
Didn't
No, I'm just trying to.
You didn't let me land.
Sorry about that. He removed sitting governors
Joshua
when he
Dare.
imposed state of emergency, when the law was clear that it's only the State House of Assembly that should go. But he illegally removed 2 sitting governors. What did he not do? It's just that Tinubu stood up to him.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and everybody is commended Tinubu at that time, and that's why he's a reference point now. But I'm saying that certain things were not as bad as they are now under
Let's go to
Obasanjo.
the mails now.
All right, so we have the first one from Muhammad Aliyu Oro from Abuja, and he says the peace pact should be signed by political parties as institutions, not by presidential candidates. National chairman and national secretary of each party should be the signatories. This will ensure all party members at national, state, and local levels are bound to respect and honor the pact. The idea of presidential candidates signing does not apply to governors, senators, House of Representatives members, and House of Assembly members. May God bless Nigeria. Emeka Mba from Abuja says, please permit me to correct the wrong narrative and impression that whenever the opposition parties win, then it is victory for democracy. But when the ruling party wins, democracy is in danger. I make bold to submit that it is when election is unnecessarily and deliberately made very controversial, like unexplainable sudden technical glitches after people have voted with enthusiasm and their results are not uploaded as planned and expected, that such things occur. Any results thereof cannot be trusted. It is when result sheets that left voting centers clean, organized, and somewhere along the line end up with cancellations and mutilation, then the results thereof will be controversial and unacceptable. Let the ruling party allow of free, fair, and credible elections without much controversy, like the Osun election, and see if the people will not accept the results. Amusiomu Ugochukwu from Lagos says, the Minister of Finance fulfilled his promise of telling Nigerians where and how the subsidy money was being spent and the reason behind the borrowing and debt service. I watched with assurance the way he simplified all the issues. I liked the fact that he allowed the audience to ask questions and feedback was offered immediately. This is how all public servants and appointees should do. After 15.8 trillion naira saved from subsidy removal, the state and LGAs got 10.4 trillion, while the federal government got 5.4 trillion naira. So what are the state and LGAs doing with this huge amount? We spent 9.3 trillion naira servicing debts alone. We are just a spending nation. Even as he acknowledged some shortfalls, he should go beyond talking and doing the right thing to correct them. I urge the President to implore all his ministers to present their scorecards as was done during President Obasanjo's time.
This is actually beautiful. I see Minister Wiki doing it in form of adverts, his achievements in the on television.
We'll have
and
to
of
go
course
now.
the finance minister. So I keep asking
we'll
questions, what
go.
are the other
Mustafa,
ministers doing?
thank you so
Amechi
much
Anakwe, what
for
are the
joining
other
us today. We'll return tomorrow with another edition. On behalf of the crew, my name is Amechi Anakwe. Have a good time.